with our illustrious group of captains on this very special night. We might get to Ben Allen, our inaugural captain, going back to the tough times, I guess, in many ways. Benno, my memory, being at the MCG, watching your first game against Richmond, the excitement, the anticipation of getting a new team together to run out at the home of footy.
Yeah, that was a great memory, Skeet. I guess you start to think about a few of those things with this event coming on. But I think the group at the very start, I mentioned in the video there that it was hastily put together. And I don't think we would have got a reasonable amount of success for a new team. 8 wins, and I think it was 7 and 10 in the first 3 years. So comparative to the modern teams, I think it's relatively successful. But the group was filled with guys that have real character, and Spider Burton was there, and John Hutton was there, and Scotty Edwards, and Scott Waters, who was very helpful and influential at the very, very start, and obviously had a great coaching career. Had Peter Mann and Steve O'Reilly, great that they're still long-term board members. So there was a real great leadership there from the start. So even when there was some bad losses in those early days, the team could dust themselves off and really focus on what was ahead. And I think if you were around at that time 25 years ago watching, you'd remember the talented young players that were involved in the team, and it's great that Kickety's there because he was leading the charge with the flair off the half-back line. So it was great to be involved with. And
Billy, we know you've got an operational role now, but one moment, one match, I guess, that stands out, the first home final against Essendon, I think 203 from memory. You were captain on that night, and it's hard to describe, if you weren't there, the buzz and the excitement for so many Fremantle faithful.
Yeah, it was a huge night. Obviously, I just remember the house was packed with Fremantle fans, a really good atmosphere. Unfortunately, things didn't go away in that game, and it'd been a bit of an emotional week from memory. I think Troy Cook was unavailable that week. He'd injured himself, and he was a key member of our team. And actually, while I talk about Cookie, the biggest shock tonight is just how much he and Luke McFarlane have let themselves go. Really just been put out to pasture. But fantastic player, great memories. That final, obviously Essendon were a bit too good for us, but it was a great honour to be a part of that team.
We'll go to, I guess, moving through the eras a bit. Matthew and David, Pav, initially to you. Here's a question that lots of people, I'm sure, have asked you with regards to a moment at Subiaco Oval, Domain Stadium, call it what you want, when you gathered the players around you in almost like a call to arms with the famous put your capes on. You didn't know where I was heading there, did you? Talk us through that moment and where that originated from as a captain.
Of all the questions you could ask, Skeet, you go to Wharfie time. Where did it come from? Well, actually, Shorty Mack, who's doing a wee right now, he'll be back shortly.
He is. He's gone.
he was
couldn't hold on.
So he will be back up here shortly. He can talk to the Superman cape thing because so when I first arrived at the club as a 17-year-old, he was a standout, I think, in terms of his passion and someone who really drove the team and the culture and what Fremantle footy was all about. He's obviously got a rich history with him and his family at Fremantle, and it runs so deep. And he was the one that sort of talked about when you put the jumper on, it was like putting on a piece of bulletproof clothing. It was like putting on a cape, and you grew extra legs, or you grew taller when you pulled the jumper on. And so that was where the Superman cape came from. And the Wharfie stuff was, when leading teams came in, we did a lot of stuff around having an aspirational statement and a set of values and behaviours that we wanted to live by, and that represented what that particular group aspired to. And yeah, the cameras got it that day. Luke Morfess is in the room. He's to blame for that. He was supposed to vet anything that went to air, but it went straight through. But yeah, I mean, at that time we had a young Stephen Hill, Hayden Ballantyne, Michael Walters all coming through. So it was trying to, I guess, espouse what we wanted to live and play by.
Sorry about that question, Pat.
Yeah,
but you gave a good answer, though. That's sort of...
Here he is. He's back.
Please welcome Shawnee McManus back to the stage. We'll give you a microphone, Shawnee Matt, because we're one shy, but we will get to Barra and Nat because people do want to have their bite to eat. Shawnee Mack, going back to when you were co-captain with Adrian Fletcher, Fair to say it was a turbulent time being a leader at the club in terms of on-field results?
Yeah, not a great time actually, Skeet. I remember people in the media actually say all publicity is good publicity, but I'd like to debate that. Because I used to go out in front of the press conferences every time we lose and just cop it big time, so I didn't enjoy that at all. But it was a great time in my life. I think I was 23 or 24 at the time. I learnt a lot. It didn't last long, but I certainly learnt a lot. I made a lot of mistakes, that's for sure. But one thing that's good about sitting up with these guys is knowing that when I was captain, I didn't take up 3/4 of the salary cap. So looking across, I think these guys can be pretty guilty.
Actually, it's funny you say that because you're still wearing the same club-issued shoes from 2006. Like, that is 100% true, right?
I found them today. I thought they'll go with the brown belt.
Look great.
That's a cheap shot, Pav.
Hang on. Look, I'll get started now that Pav's just fired one across the bow here.
You wait, Barra, and we'll get to Nat, and then we do have to move on. But just in brief, this is a more serious question, David. The demands of being an AFL captain, what you have to do day in, day out, did it surprise you? Does it catch people off guard with regards to the commitment required, more than just being an on-field leader?
Yeah, certainly a lot. I spent a lot of time in the leadership group leading into my brief time, like Sean, learning a lot from Matthew, and I feel like, or I'd like to think I've given a lot to Nathan in his time as captain, but it's something I'm still immensely proud of and wouldn't give up.
And Nathan, in brief, we're not going to drag this on too long, but do you get the chance to soak up the knowledge of some of these blokes that have been captains before you? But Matthew, obviously, you played alongside, and David, knowing what he's done. As a captain, I mean, you're ever evolving, I guess?
Absolutely, yeah. My leadership bias really is towards Matthew in a lot of ways because of how many games I played alongside and under his leadership, and then David as well. But now, as captain and having David in the leadership group, we sort of wax off each other a fair bit, and we have a young group, an emerging group, who need some counsel along the way, and David and I work in tandem to try and offer that, along with Aaron Sandilands and a few other senior players. So also nice having Peter Bell back in the building, just to be able to walk into his open door and say, how do you handle this situation or that situation? So some good people that I have around the club.
Gentlemen, unless you want to have the last say, Shawnee Mack, because I know you're dying to have a dash back at your old mate here. You've got 10 seconds to fire up, or we shut it down.
Well, I'd like to talk about Pav's leadership, actually, because it's very similar to Benno's at the time. When Benno took over and Pav, they were very similar. Whilst they were getting paid most of the salary cap, they drove around in some really weird-ass cars. Benno used to get around in the Barina, Benno. When you were paid, I think the rest of us were on $10 an hour and you're getting all of it. I don't know how you went so long without the Barina. And then Pav turned up with this thing, Subaru Leone, Pav. And I knew he was a different guy because it had electric windows. Back then, that was a big deal.
Shawnee Mack, you're not bitter and twisted about the money being paid to other captains, but we do value your contribution.
Are you winding me up, Ski?
Well, I've been given the
I'm not even getting started here,
This is
mate.
not.
I went to the toilet for
This is
half
not
an hour.
radio, mate. We've got to get moving.
Righto.
I've got Kelly Black saying, wrap it up, boys. So to you, Shawnee, Nathan, so much. Peter, of course, Benno, David, Matthew, please put your hands together for our captains of the Fremantle Football Club. Superstars of the game. Dino, very entertaining.